Hey everyone, here on the School of Night, I like to review well-known authors, a few more obscure ones, but I generally stick with things I think are considered fairly well written. Today, though, we're going to be going in the opposite direction of that. I'd like to introduce one of my favorite writers, hands down, Four Legendary Kingdoms by Matthew Reilly. In case you've never heard of him, Matthew Reilly is one of the most fast-paced writers I have ever read. He's an Australian who writes primarily two different heroes, Jack West Jr. and Shane Schofield. Shane Schofield is a U.S. Marine who starred in Ice Station and a couple of other books like Area 7, Scarecrow, and so on. His books are more of a geopolitical bent to them, whereas Jack West Jr. is an Australian-American adventurer commando, essentially, who goes on a lot of Indiana Jones or Uncharted-esque adventures, trying to uncover ancient tombs and ancient machines to save the world, essentially. Of all the Matthew Reilly books, the reason I'm selecting this one is because it's a crossover between when Jack West Jr. meets Shane Schofield. The context in which these two meet is also fairly interesting. There's this strange ritual game that must occur every few thousand years, and the previous iteration of these games gave rise to the myths of Hercules and other Greek and classical legends. Jack West Jr., Shane Schofield, and each of their respective supporting cast are unwillingly roped into these games at the behest of these four legendary kingdoms, this secret cabal of secret societies that runs different parts of the world. As such, the elite military units of the world are unwillingly, or sometimes willingly, conscripted into these games. If that sounds completely stupid, it's because it is. But you know what? It's an extremely glorious kind of stupid. It is pulse-pounding, silly, just taking a crazy premise and running with it. Kind of awesome. The writing could have been a lot better. The characters are fairly flat for the most part. But you know what? It's a lot better than Matthew Reilly's previous efforts, and Matthew Reilly himself is just a really interesting fellow to read about. I had this mental image of him as this fun-loving, kind of goofy fan who just loves taking all these crazy action-packed stories and shooting them out across hundreds of pages and making it a blast the entire way. Whenever a new Matthew Reilly book comes out, I order it directly from Australia or New Zealand, so I get it before the official US release. That is how much I love reading Matthew Reilly books. But once I get a hold of the book, though, I'll be lucky if it lasts me more than a couple of hours, because I do not want to put those down once I get started on one. That said, though, there is a crossover I hope to see with Jack West Jr. in the future, that is, a character from Temple, who I feel would definitely enrich the vibe he's going for with Jack West Jr. in his series, but that's a rant for another day. Matthew Reilly, even though he's written a lot of really fun other books, like some standalone ones like The Great Zoo of China, he had a bit of a rough history in the last few years, due to some personal tragedies and the like. After seeing a documentary about him, I'm just impressed what he's managed to overcome. He's definitely someone who I respect personally and as a writer. Sure, his writing isn't the best. It might be kind of campy and silly, but you know what? He does his craft with a huge amount of passion. That is what I can get behind. Matthew Reilly also goes out of his way to make himself fairly accessible to a lot of his fans. 2 decades ago, when his first novels were published in the US, my mother exchanged a few emails with him. I have to credit Matthew Reilly for getting me involved with reading. That is why I respect him so very much, because he could take someone like 12 or 13-year-old me and get me reading stuff. Sure, it's not the best stuff, but he writes to get more kids involved in reading. That's why I'm always going to be a Matthew Reilly fan. Now, I hope to see you next time, here at the School of Night.